Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today it's a treat for me because I get to unveil to you a new watch which has entered my wristwatch collection. And this is a rarity. I haven't bought a new watch for over 3 years, 3.5 years in fact. So I do take my time and think very carefully before I make my purchases, so you can be sure that this is no, seat of the pants decision. And I have been thinking about introducing a new watch into my collection for quite some time now, because I have somewhat fallen out of love with a brand which I have been favouring for 5, 6 or more years, and that's Rolex. I have been almost exclusively wearing Rolex watches for all of that time. I've made a video on why I feel differently about that brand, so go and look at that one if you want, but I just felt a need for something different, to explore different horological avenues, and certainly to bring something into the collection which was perhaps more reminiscent of my own personal style and my love of classical lines. So quite an interesting journey I've been on looking at potential watches. Now, I was most certain that I wanted a watch which was not round in its appearance, because I've basically been wearing round sort of sporty watches for all of the last 5 or 6 years. I wanted something which had different dimensions. I very much toyed with the idea of the JLC Reverso. I tried it on a few times, tried it on in the UK, tried it on in Dubai the last time I was there, and something about it, the proportions were not perfect for me. I was slightly put off. I was looking for something which ticked multiple boxes, to be honest. I wanted a watch which, yes, could be a viable daily wearer, so it had to be tough and robust. But at the same time, because I tend to favour more classical dress and style, I wanted something which could easily look very much at home when I was wearing maybe a sports jacket, collar and tie, as I am right now, or a suit, or a blazer, or something which is a little smarter than the average man wears today. Well, as you can see, you probably recognise already the red box. It tells you it is a Cartier. So, which Cartier did I go for? Well, the reason I went for Cartier in the first place is because I've long felt the pull of the allure of the classical lines of the King's Jeweller and the Jeweller of Kings, as Cartier like to describe themselves. And I've always really had a strong interest in the Cartier tank, the sort of rectangular watch, very classical, very elegant. But somehow, I don't know, it seemed a little fragile for what I needed for a daily wearer. Although there are many different derivatives of the tank style within the Cartier range, there was one which stood out to me because of its versatility. And it's a watch which has become very popular since the current iteration was released in 2018, and it is the Cartier Santos. It's kind of their sportier model within the Cartier range, and it's definitely a watch which fits very snugly into its box, but it's a watch which has got an interesting history. I'm not going to bore you with the history. Suffice to say, the Cartier Santos can trace its heritage back to, I think it's 1904, when the interesting backstory is that there was a Brazilian sort of pioneer aviator called Alberto Santos Dumont, and he was an early pilot of lighter-than-air aircraft, so airships and I believe powered aircraft as well. Now, he was a friend of Louis Cartier, who was one of the generational family members of Cartier itself, and one day they were chatting and Alberto Santos Dumont said to Louis Cartier, "It's really awkward when I'm flying these aircraft, they're quite unwieldy. I have to pull my watch out, my fob watch, to check the time. It's really distracting because you need both your hands on the controls." So Louis Cartier thinks to himself, I can do something about that, and he creates what is now acknowledged to be the first man's wristwatch in 1904. Ladies' wristwatches, or watches worn on the wrist, had been around for a little while, but gentlemen still typically had pocket watches or fob watches. So the wristwatch makes its entry onto the horological scene. Now in 1911, the Santos becomes publicly available, having been initially a project piece for Alberto Santos Dumont, and the Cartier de Santos becomes a part of the Cartier range. And it's kind of been in continuous production by Cartier in some form or another ever since. Now what I like about that heritage story is that the watch has hardly, well, let's not say it's hardly changed. Clearly it's changed a lot in its development over the years. But you can see when you look at it, its DNA is still there. You can see that this is, in essence, the same watch which has morphed over the century into something which is more akin to the modern world, but it still shares its heritage back with that watch originally created by Louis Cartier. So let me give you a little look at the watch, and perhaps then you can appreciate perhaps why I took the decision to buy this fella. So I'll just put my camera on and we will have a gander at this rather splendid piece which has captured my imagination just recently. Okay, so here we have it. Here is the mid-size Cartier de Santos. And as you can see, stainless steel watch, square in shape, but you will notice the integrated bracelet, also made of stainless steel, which gives it its somewhat iconic appearance. And I think actually the bracelet is part of the attractive element of this watch, certainly what drew me to it. You can see it has single link bracelet, and it has these little screw heads in there, which are not aligned in any way. There is an industrial minimalism to this watch which really draws my eye. And what I really like about it is that sort of Art Deco style. The Roman numerals, the minute track on the inside of the watch there, the blued metal hands, as you can see. Just time only, nothing else going on there. If you go for the larger size, because the Cartier Santos is also available in a larger piece, it does have a date option available on the larger model. But the medium size, which I went for, really quite straightforward. 35 millimeters across from one side to the other, and 8.9 millimeters thick. So really quite a slim little watch. And as you can just about make out, domed sapphire crystal there. So it's 100 meters of water resistant, and although it's not perhaps giving you the best look at it, but it doesn't have a screw down crown, but in the crown it has what Cartier refer to as a spinel, which is basically a laboratory grown sapphire. That little blue gemstone you see in the middle of the crown, it's something symbolic on many Cartier watches. Now you'll note that the majority of the watch is a satin finish, brushed finish. Except for the shoulders of the case and that bezel around the case, which is high polished finish. A lot of people find or note that this is quite easily scratched. Well, any high polished finish on any watch is going to suffer with that, I'm afraid. Crown guards, as you can see, protecting that crown. Quite a simple piece. When we look underneath, it's a double deployment clasp with the Cartier symbol, clearly visible there. So there we are. Quite a straightforward piece, and one which I have been enjoying enormously wearing just recently. So why did I buy this watch? I'm going to put it on because it's a sin to own a watch like this and not to have it on your wrist, in my opinion. It's all about the wearing experience. Well, for a start, I wanted something which chimed with my own aesthetic, a little bit more classy than those rather chunky Rolex watches I've been wearing for so many years. I wanted something nice and slim that could fit easily under the cuff of my dress shirt, yet is still quite elegant and quite classical in its appearance. And you know it's been around since 1904. This is not a watch which is ever going to be obsolete. It's been 120 years. You know, this is a watch which is going to look equally as chic and classical in another 120 years, hopefully when my forebears get to wear it in the future. It's a watch which I bought without knowing a great deal about. I was almost 100% drawn to the aesthetics of this piece. I couldn't have told you that it is a Cartier in-house movement. I couldn't have told you that it has a 48-hour power reserve. I really wasn't interested. This was all about the appearance for me, and that is really why I found myself being drawn to it. But those little touches, like the fact that it's an in-house movement, it's not METAS or COSC certified, you know, it's not regulated to the nth degree. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm an average, ordinary, everyday watch-wearing guy, as long as it keeps to within plus or minus 5 seconds a day, I'm quite comfortable, right? I don't live my life to that level of daily precision. So I'm not too worried about METAS, chronometer standards. For me, this is really about the appearance, and that's where, you know, it really hits home for me. Now, when I think about this watch, I also think about, and I'm kind of a guy of, you know, my era really, born in 1970. And I remember the movie Wall Street. I don't know if you can recall that. It's about trading. And the lead character, the lead villain really, was played by Michael Douglas, and the character he played was Gordon Gekko, who was an embodiment of the conspicuous wealth and excess era of the 1980s. And when I think of him in my mind, I picture, you know, that character with the braces, suspenders, holding his you know, trousers up, with a Winchester, so a contrasting collar shirt which he was wearing, which was, you know, sort of emblematic of the high confidence trader of that period of time. And of course on his wrist, a solid gold Cartier Santos, which I have to admit, if I had the money, I would love to have the yellow gold version of this, but at 30,000 quid, that is never going to happen. The stainless steel version, £6,750, just to tell you where it is. So it's priced lower than something like a Rolex Datejust of an equivalent model. So to give you an idea where it sits in the pantheon of wristwatches. Of course, unlike Rolex, it doesn't have that amazing residual value. So as soon as you buy it, you know, you're losing money on a watch like this. But when you buy a watch to keep and to love and to own forever, it's not perhaps something that you worry quite so much about. So as I say, I was looking for a watch which ticked all the boxes, wearable, smart and classy, has a couple of, you know, different, it's a bit of a chameleon, a couple of different looks that I can employ in various styles of clothing that I typically wear. And I'd never tried on a Cartier of any kind in my life. So I was thinking about this watch for a long time, thinking it may be a potential addition to the collection, the next edition. So by chance, I found myself a month or so ago now in London with my young son. My wife was away on a business trip in India, so me and my boy took the opportunity. We went up to London for a couple of days, do the museums, have some fine dining, and I found myself with my boy walking down the street of New Bond Street. And of course, looming up in front of me was the huge Cartier boutique, the flagship store of Cartier in downtown central London. All of the watch companies are there in New Bond Street. If you've never been, it's the place to go if you enjoy looking at these pieces. Anyway, I think I'll go into Cartier and try one on, because even though I'm feeling myself drawn to the Santos, I've never tried one. So I go inside, speak to the lady, they seat me, and a sales agent comes along. What do you like, sir? Went and got me the Cartier Santos. There was a number of options. You know, I could have had the whites, there was the blue dial, the green dial, and the week that I was there, Watches and Wonders, there was a chocolate dial released that week as well. So I'm pretty of a classic guy. White was something I was drawn to, so I said I'll have the white dial to have a look at, try it on. In the medium, I tried it on. As soon as it hit my wrist, I knew this was a watch that I could live with, because it fitted me in every way. And you know, I could just see it ticking all the boxes that I had laid out for my next watch edition. So I'm not one to make a spontaneous purchase, so I said, thanks very much, I'll go away and think about it. Off I go with my lad, we go out, we have dinner, whatever, we go to a few museums, and I realise I'm thinking about that Santos throughout my journey around London. So I then decide to go back to the store, try it on again. And it was at that time that I realised I can dance around with this as much as I like. I know this is the next watch I want. I haven't felt as sure about a watch purchase for a very, very long time. Probably since I bought my Rolex Datejust, which was just a watch I'd lusted after for years and years. I knew that was the watch for me. When I put the Santos on, I knew it was just right, ticked all my boxes. So I bought it. And that's another refreshing experience. Imagine being a Rolex owner for many years, and I own quite a number of highly desirable Rolex watches, Pepsi, GMT, Submariner and the like. And I remember the merry dance you have to go on to own one of those watches. It was so refreshing to go into Cartier and say, I'll take one of those, please. And they go and get one from the safe, and you can walk out from the store that day with the object of your lustful desire on your wrist. What a fabulous thing after you've been, messed around by a brand like Rolex over the years in the past, being kept waiting for year after year for a watch that you've wanted. And then being made to feel that you're lucky that they allow you to spend £10,000 on a watch. They're doing you a favour by letting you buy it. It wasn't like that at all in Cartier, I can tell you now. It was such a more classy and refined experience. And just in the accoutrements that you actually get with the piece. I mean, for a start, you have unlimited time with the agent who explains to you the fact that in the Cartier Santos you have this remarkable changeable bracelet which allows you to pop the bracelet off with merely the push of a button on the back. Off the bracelet comes just like that, and it allows you to fit another bracelet. And get this, they even provide you with another bracelet that comes with the watch. In this case, it is a sort of tan-coloured calf leather bracelet with a Cartier deployment clasp as well. And it fits on the watch in but a moment of time. So not only do you get a lovely watch, but it gets this very simple but effective proprietary element to the bracelet, which allows you to change it on and off as simply as that in a few moments of time. So it gives you what I would describe several different watches in their appearance in the one piece. And of course you can buy additional straps should you wish. I'm very interested in buying a black alligator strap so I can wear my watch with more formal evening attire. So I rang up Cartier a couple of days after I bought it and said, how do I get a black alligator strap and how much does it cost? They got back to me within an hour and said, sir, if you just pop into the boutique, we have a number of them in stock, and they're £300. And I thought, well, that seems actually quite reasonable, and you can just go in and buy them next time you're in town. And there's a number of different colours you can have as well. But I really like the fact that changing the bracelet so easily and effectively allows you to change the look of the watch. Even the bracelet itself has a proprietary patented mechanism which allows even the owner of the watch at home, without having to take the watch to a jeweler, to add or remove links so that the watch fits you just so, all within a case of pressing these small buttons which releases the pins and allows you to do this yourself easily, effectively at home without any need to trouble your local jeweler or go back to the boutique to get it done. All of these little touches are just spot on. The watch also comes with a simple but something you don't get with other brands, a little watch cleaning kit with a little brush and a little sort of squirty solution and a little cleaning rag. But it's inconsequential really, but it just shows they're showing an interest. The watch also comes with an 8-year guarantee, which gives you an element of confidence. A little sort of travel bag as well comes with it, so you can take your watch away and keep it stored nice and safely should you wish to do so. And it's all these little things that, having been a Rolex customer in the past, was something which was alien to me. I said, really? You just give me these things? It was so very pleasant to go through what I would consider to be something of a much more refined and enjoyable buying experience. So in the month I've owned the watch, I've been wearing it extensively, and I just have fallen in love with it. I haven't hardly worn anything else since I've got it, and it's just so elegant, classy, and it just has been a refreshing change from the more clunky, chunky Rolex watches which I've worn up to this point. Okay, well, I think I've waxed lyrical about this new watch of mine up to this point, so I'm not going to bore you with it anymore. Suffice to say, though, something had to leave the collection to allow something to come in. That's kind of my rule these days, not least because I needed to release the funds tied up in a watch to allow me to buy this one, or to replace the money which I'd spent on this one. And it was the Rolex Explorer from my collection which made way and has now gone, left, been sold. There's a video coming up on my selling experience around that watch, which featured a little bit of an adventure, which I think you'll find enjoyable, which you'll see arriving in a little while. But I am very, very happy with my new Cartier. It is a watch which I look forward to taking on the life journey with me into the future. And maybe after I've owned it for a year, 6 months, I'll let you know how it's going, whether I'm still in love with it, whether it hasn't been what I'd hoped. But for sure, I'll let you know in the months ahead. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to come on this journey with me, click subscribe. Make sure you get to see the videos as I drop them in the future. If you'd like to practically support the channel, you could drop me a comment, you could send me an email, you could buy me a coffee, or if you want to benefit from the additional video content which I create exclusively for my patrons, you could follow the link in the show notes below, go to my Patreon page, join up and benefit from that additional dialogue I have with my wonderful patrons. So until the next time, enjoy your watch with pride and passion, and I will see you again very soon.